in public hearing today. We'll do that on the wall in front of you by means of a PowerPoint presentation. We'll display photographs the codes department staff took, as well as site plans submitted by the applicant and any other information received by the board. If you're here as an applicant for a case and there is not opposition to your case, you'll have 5 minutes to present your testimony to the board. You'll come up to the front desk there, and there are 4 spots. Just to the right of the microphone stand down at the bottom is a little person symbol there. Just click on that. Your mic will turn red, kind of like my microphone's red right here. And once that's on, identify yourself and make your presentation when I call your case up. If you're here and your case has opposition, you'll have 10 minutes to present your case. That clock is just to your right over there by Ms. Davis, where she'll be sitting. That time is for the sides of the case, not per speaker. So if you have multiple folks that wish to talk on a case today, you'll have to divide up your time accordingly. I ask you to work that out before you come up to the board. Again, cases with opposition, you'll have 10 minutes. The applicant will have 10 minutes first. They'll go first and talk to the board about what they're wanting to do. Then they'll want to save a portion of their time for rebuttal. The opposition will then go next. They'll have 10 minutes to speak in total. The opposition gets 1 chance to talk to the board, and then the applicant will have a chance for rebuttal. The cases brought before us are outlined in the board's powers under section 1740-180 of the Metro Code of Law. The board requires that 4 members of a 7-member board be present to constitute a quorum. We'll have 4 members present today. The rules of the board also require that you have 4 affirmative votes. So today you must have all 4 votes for yes for your case to be granted. In the event you don't have all 4 votes, if we somehow have a tie vote of 3-1 or 2-2, your case will stay on our agenda for the next 30 days. The other members who are not present can watch the proceedings from the Metro Network on YouTube, review the case record, and then become eligible to hear today's case at our next meeting. The next meeting of this board will be April the 4th. And that meeting will be here in the Sonny auditorium. Okay. The board does allow elected officials to address the board. I know I see 1 or 2 here present today. If there are any elected officials who'd like to address the board, if you'd like to come forward now, you're welcome to. You're also welcome to wait until your case is called. And I see Councilmember, if you'd like to come forward.
Good afternoon, board, and thank you for your service. This is a volunteer position, and it is much appreciated. Councilwoman Emily Benedict, District 7, that's Inglewood and parts of Madison. I'm here on case 2024-041. It's in Council District 6. I have been contacted by, this is just to the south, Gallatin Pike. This is on Gallatin Pike, which extends up into District 7. And this is maybe about half a mile south of District 7. However, I have constituents who are interested in this case and have asked me to come and speak in opposition of this. Gallatin Pike has the 2nd highest ridership on the WeGo route in the entire city, with over 100,000 riders per month. And so we also are slated through NDOT, the Vision Zero and Complete Street program, to have BRT on Gallatin Pike, so we will see fewer cars in the future. So anything that would encourage cars, such as a drive-through, is not something that my constituents are interested in pursuing. So with that...
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Would you mind if I asked a question?
Absolutely, sorry.
My understanding is this case was withdrawn. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm double checking that now.
Okay.
We did get a late email.
So
That's a great reason to interrupt me. Thank you.
Yes, I didn't. I was interested in what you had to say, but wanted to.
Yeah, we do, Councilmember. I apologize. We did late yesterday get a withdrawal application from the appellant on this. Now, that's not to say that the applicant may not be seeking to build what they propose to. This is in the Gallatin UDO, and I think they may be talking with planning about opting into the urban design overlay.
Okay.
But it will not be in front of the board today, and I apologize I didn't get that
I
on there.
apologize for taking up your
No,
time.
no,
Thank you
you're
so
great.
much.
That's-
Now you know what's happening in District 6 and 7. Appreciate your work.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Good. Are there any other, I noticed, I did say at least one other council member present. Councilman, do you wish to address the board now or till your time? Do I have another council member present with me? Hi, ma'am, come forward. I apologize.
No worries, I'm going to wait as well.
Okay, all right. Which case are you guys, I know you're the St. Mina's case. I think that's our first or second case on that. Which case are you here for? Counseling. Okay, great. I've got you down there. Okay, great. Just one amendment to my timing rules that I talked about before. The 5 minutes or 10 minutes is on the applicant and opposition. Elected officials you're not subject to the time limit. So when you do come forward, you're welcome to speak as long as you want. Well, I understand. Well, maybe something we should look at our rules in the future. But so far, at least in the almost 25 years I've done this, we haven't had any filibusters. So we appreciate you guys coming down. The board does have a consent agenda. Well, before I begin the consent agenda, let me go over some preliminary announcements, which I should have done before Councilmember Van Rees stood up. We do have some cases that have been withdrawn and deferred on our agenda today. The first case that has been requested a deferral is case 2024-40, Mr. Amos Howard Sr., the appellant in 60111 South Trust, the owner of the property at 601 South 11th Street, was requesting an item D addition to a non-conforming triplex. That case will not be heard today. The applicant has requested a deferral, and it's been granted administratively to May the 2nd, 2024. That will be here in this. So if you're here for case 40, that case will not be heard today. It'll be May the 2nd in this room. And then case 2024-41, that Councilmember Van Rees was here. That case has been withdrawn by the applicant. I think everything else on our published agenda will be heard by the board in one way, shape, or form. As I mentioned before, the board does have a consent agenda, and prior to the meeting, the vice chair reviewed today's cases, and I'm going to go through the consent agenda. The consent agenda are cases that the board will vote on at one time and approved at the beginning of the meeting. If you're here in opposition to any of the cases that I call next, please raise your hand and we'll hear that case in its regular order. And the first case recommended for consent agenda is case 2024-12, the Gloucester Square Corporate, the appellant owner of the property at 2100 Golf Club Lane, requesting a variance to allow for additional wall height requirements in the R10 district. Are there any parties present opposed to case 12? Mr. Chairman, seeing none, the applicant has requested to place on the order a condition on it that no vegetation will be planted that would grow greater than 18 inches in height, and we'll just include that in the order. This is a replacement of an existing wall that kind of surrounds this development with a new wall. That wall's in disrepair and needs to be repaired, so they're requesting that. And then the next case and final case recommended for consent is case 2024-49. Mr. Josh Helmer is the appellant, Cream City Development, LLC, for property at 3526 Shady Side Drive, requesting a variance in street setbacks to construct an additional unit. Are there any parties present opposed to case 49 on Shady Side Drive? All right, Mr. Chairman, seeing none. With that, those two cases are up on your consent agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Okay, 4 in favor, none opposed.
Okay, if you're here for cases 12 and 49, you are free to go. Your cases have been approved. If you'll follow up with the Codes Department beginning on Monday to continue processing your permits. All right. And as those parties depart, we will get into our cases for today. That will be heard, members. Again, only 4 members present today, so I'm going to pull up our PowerPoint, and we'll get started. The first case that we'll hear today will be a case that was deferred from February 1st. Is Farhad Ruzbahan, the appellant, Union Real Estate Investment Incorporated, the owners of property at 109 Edgemead Drive, also known as 1835 Gallatin Pike North. Gentleman was requesting a variance in street setbacks to allow the legal use of an existing carport. Is the appellant present with us this afternoon? Okay, sir, come on forward. Are there any parties here opposed to the case? Okay, seeing no hands. Sir, let me go through the case record again, remind the board members what occurred previously. All right, members, this subject property is located on the east side. I've lost my cursor here. Give me 1 second. Get that back up. There we are. Located on the east side of Gallatin Pike. That's the parcel here in red. Again, subject property showing the plat subdivision. This lot was created back in 1924. And then another view, the subdivision itself sits right here. And this is the carport in question. Members, you all heard this case. Back in February, the gentleman constructed a carport. He did not obtain a permit, but since was cited by the Property Standards Division, came in to get a permit for the building, and that's when we discovered there's an issue with the side street setback. That side street setback will be along the eastern property boundary right here. The side setback requirements the street setback requirements in CS are a 15-foot setback, and he is well inside that. View looking from the Edgemead Boulevard site. Again, there's the structure in question. Next photograph, again, structure. Located there. And then another view looking at Edgemead Boulevard. And the site plan submitted by the applicant. I think I'll leave that photograph right there. Members, this case was deferred from February the 1st, 2024. And at that time, the applicant requested a two-meeting deferral. 6 members heard this case originally. Were there any members present who did not hear this case from the last time? I think I had everyone that heard it before. Okay, good. All right, with that, sir, I'll turn it back over to you if you'll identify yourself and make your presentation and speak with the board about what you want to do.
Good afternoon. My name is Farzad Ruzban. We have a property located at 109 Edgemead Boulevard. And since the last time, we made a lot of difference in that property because we had an issue people parking in the side street. And we just tried to move everything. We talked to the landlord about that. And they allow us to park our car in the back and also remove the dumpsters from the side of the building. And we have a hardship about the location of that shed because the landlord doesn't allow us to install that carport beside that Edgemead Boulevard. And we don't have any place to store our tires, new and used one, and people are usually stealing the tires from that location. And that's the only location we were able to install it. And in back of the property and the side of the property, it is a parking space for the next business to us. And we just make sure we made it clean. And I actually took some pictures from now. And the thing is, we have a contract about 2.5 years with the landlord over there. And we're just here to see if we can get the variance feedback from the street for that shed.
Is that those photographs you'd like to share with the board?
Yes, yeah. But we have another issue with the businesses next to us across the street, you know, and as you can see in the pictures, we talked to GT Towing, and we actually towed like 6-7 times of their cars. They park in the street next to the shed and in the back of our building. because landlord allow us to park 3 cars in the back and also moving the dumpster to the back to clean that area. We make it really clean, as you can see in the pictures. And no cars in our property or right beside the shed. But as you can see in the pictures, the property next to us is a 1422B Galton Pike. They have a body shop and mechanic shop, and sometimes, they park the car really close to the road and cross the street our business. And by putting that shade, we just try to make sure it's look clean and good, and also we don't have any problem with the health code violation, because if the water goes in the tires, it causes the mosquito rays in the summer. And we just try to make sure it's clean and neat, and actually we did a lot to make it clean, like the pictures you can see. And it's not a permanent, actually, shed. It's just temporary for 2.5 years after we move. You have to move it with us. That means it's not something that's going to be there forever.
Have you had any conversations with the council person after you made these efforts?
Yes, I called actually 2 days ago, and I talked to them, and I told them about a problem right across the street. They say that's not your problem because you did your best. And actually, they came yesterday too as well. They took the pictures I see them, they come every day and look around,
Oh, I think that's, maybe you're referring to a Metro inspector?
Oh, yes, yeah.
As Vice Chair, the council member is President Tanya Hancock, so I think do you wish to address the board as well on this case?
Yes, please.
Sure, you can do the podium or wherever you'd like.
Super, thank you. Do I need to turn this on? How's that? It was my understanding that we were deferring this as a courtesy to the applicant to give them time to figure out another situation, not to ask for the same exception. And as you can see, even in this picture, the signs, which are legal because they're portable signs, are even blocking the turn. And that was the reason we had gotten from the Nashville Department of Transportation, that they didn't want to have anything obstructing the right-of-way because we already have obstructions. I do appreciate the fact that the applicant has helped with getting the vehicles from the other business across the street towed. As I mentioned last time, this business strip here is in front of a suburban neighborhood that was developed from Edgemead Farm in 1974, and it was never intended to have the entrances to the businesses on Edgemead, and the traffic there is quite a hindrance to the neighborhood because it's a very narrow street. But I would not be in favor of an exception. I would like to encourage the applicant to maybe consider renting a small storage place for the tires if they can't convince the landlord to let them store them elsewhere on the property. Thank you.
I don't know that it's procedurally time for the rebuttal. Does he still go?
Yeah, he's plenty of time.
Yeah.
We wouldn't count necessarily on that. And so you're welcome to address in the time still remaining.
Okay. If you'd like to say anything else?
Well, I think that's all I have to say. That's all we could do, just try to help as far as, being clean and also neat, because before we had the tires outside, we just tried to cover them, just right beside the building, And the only thing, if you have to remove it, we still have to have tires right beside the road, or we have to move them somewhere else, but we have to cover them different way. And there's nothing we can do. If you have to remove it, we have to remove it. We just don't have any other choice.
Does anyone have any questions for the appellant? Okay, we'll close the public hearing then.
Thank you.
Any thoughts, discussion?
I was hoping we would get some sort of something more than what we had seen the last time. I think that was part of the reason we had deferred it. I think their efforts are good to try to address it, but I'm just still not persuaded that we can we can check the box of no harm to public welfare, based upon where these things are. So, I mean, I'm inclined to say no.
I agree with you on that, not being able to check that box.
I'm pretty much in agreement too. I was hoping that they might be able to work something out with the landlord to move it back to some particular area that's still not in the floodplain, but still manageable. I mean, I applaud their efforts to clean it up, but
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any support from anybody.
Any motions out there?
Before you had a motion, so, like, what exactly is within the setbacks? Because, I mean, Galveston is a building, the entire corridor backs up to neighborhoods. So I'm just wondering, like, what more did the applicant need to do to satisfy everybody? That was my question.
That tire shed is still in the setback.
Oh, would they ask for, like, with a carport, so they want.
Yeah.
So then, what, the shed either needs to be smaller?
I mean, it would,
Not be removed?
It needs
yeah,
to be smaller and needs to move back.
Yeah.
Like, out of the right of way. And I think NDOT
like the-
asked if they wanted to get a survey to show.
yeah, like the car and the dumpster that were in the prior file, the new photographs show that those have been removed, which is good, but the main consideration, as I understood it, was moving the tire storage structure. This tan building is the thing that is encroaching in the setback.
And how much is it encroaching in setback?
It varies, I think, because it's a little bit on
Yeah, but based upon our information, we have, Ms. Davis is 15 feet's required. Just off this photograph alone, I would say they're probably every bit of it. Maybe a foot or two inside that 15-foot mark.
And it was, to me, when I read the NDOT response, it could potentially be in the right of way, so it's even past the setback. Potentially in the right of way, but without a survey, we don't know for sure, but.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, like, there are ways to, construction in a floodplain is not close to ideal, but there are ways to elevate things in a manner that would, potentially, I mean, there's engineering that you can do to.
Well, and there's an area too that looks like from, I think it was, some photographs from the last case looked like there'd been some fill in the back that were out of the floodplain that, I don't know if it was just a trash dump or what, where something could be placed for tire storage. I mean,
Right. I mean, you could honestly probably shift what parking you have in the back and put storage there and park where that tire shed is now, because the vehicles would be would fit within that 15 feet, but also would,
And I think you could, and I think the applicant said that landlord was unwilling to move the shed or let them move the shed in the rear. I'm not sure.
yeah,
I'm remembering that.
that's unfortunate.
Okay, any additional discussion?
I'll make a motion that we deny the variance as requested.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand. Aye. So that's 4 in favor, deny that.
Okay. With that, case 11 has been denied, variance request. Okay. Our next case, which will be heard, is case 2024-20. Father Boutros, the appellant for St. Mina's Coptic Orthodox Church of Tennessee, the owners of the property at 5065 Cherrywood Drive, requesting a special exception in the R10 district to seek construction of a new gym and fellowship hall. This case was deferred previously by the board, I think for some more conversations between neighbors and drawings submitted. I've got, I'll have to get to the drawing that they submitted to us to get it displayed for you, and I'll do that while your discussions are going on. The appellant's present in this case? Okay, I do see you, sir. I did see council members present. Are there any parties here in opposition to case 20 on Cherrywood Drive? Okay, we do have some folks there. Again, we'll have 10 minutes. Each side will I'll get this clock reset. And while I'm doing that, and Councilmember, do you wish to address the board at the beginning, at the end? Do you have a preference? I do real quick. Okay.
Good afternoon, Board. I'm Bob Nash, Council for District 27, in which this project is located. I was here at the last meeting, and I know there was a lot of discussion about having further discussion with the neighbors and the like. And to my knowledge, that has not happened since our last meeting. I don't know what the holdup is. I'll let the appellant explain why there's not been any conversation. But that's kind of where we're at right now. I can't oppose or or propose this waiver at the moment.
Okay, members. If the appellants will come forward first to the table. Sir, if you would, please identify yourself with a name and address, and address the board. I think it may be wise to speak to the council members' notes that he just made there. While you're doing that, I'll pull up the drawings that were submitted in.
My name is Bishoy Saad. I'm a member of St. Mina Coptic Orthodox Church, and I'm the board of the church board. And I think we were here last time. The thing that the councilman remembered, I think it was maybe a misunderstanding from my part. I know last time we addressed, I think the neighbors were here, addressed about 8 different concerns. And I spoke, and about 6 of them we answered on the spot here. And there were 2 concerns that I understood from the board that we needed time to find solution for. And those was mainly the views of the view of the building for the neighboring houses, and also the soundproof for the people that said that this can bring sounds. And we addressed in our drawing that we submitted that we will have buffer trees long enough along between us and the neighbors. And we will maintain it, and it will be like all year round. And we also contacted our architect, and that building is going to be made from, like the walls are going to be made from blocks poured concrete. So it's plenty of soundproofing for any sound that can go outside. So my understanding that was the 2 concerns that were remaining after the talks between the committee here, and that we needed time to figure out those concern, or I think one of the board member here suggested that it's good to have it on the drawing, so it's not just be talks, and that we need to just include the trees and whatever we're gonna do for the soundproofing. So that's what we worked on and did it. So it's maybe a misunderstanding from my side that we did not reach back to the neighbors about those 2 issues.
Yeah, Mr. Sod, if I can stop you there, I need to go through our presentation. I've pulled over the drawings that you guys have submitted in. So let me, while we do that, let me bring those up here. Okay. And just to refresh the members' memories on this, the subject property that we're talking about today is that parcel that's shown in red. St. Mina's campus currently consists of the 2 adjoining parcels to the east, which would be these 2 guys here, as well as this larger tract. And then a view showing the stream buffers on the property, and then an aerial photograph. The subject property would be located here. These are views taken by staff in the first case. Views of existing subject property, existing buildings located on those parcels. And again, the parcel we're talking about is this parcel here. I believe at the last hearing, we had some of the opposition present, the adjoining property owners here, and I think some other individuals that live in the neighborhood. They'll probably address you again. And then looking at the subject property, this would be the site in which this new structure would be placed. Again, the board's review in this case, section 1716-150. This is a religious institution that does have a valid UNO on the effective day of this code, which was January 1st, 1998. And again, this is your authority that they may expand under your authority, demonstrating compliance with the general provisions of 16-150. Again, view of the subject site, and these were the 3D rendering that was submitted by the appellants, and I've got those pasted in here. And then this was the site plan submitted by the appellants at that time, at the previous hearing. Again, this is all property owned by St. Mina's. All right, sir, that'll end our presentation. I'll turn back over to you if there's any other items you'd like to address to the board.
Yes, thank you. If you can open the last picture, that shows the house that was going to be demolished for the gymnasium.
That photograph?
All right, yes, thank you so much. So in between those two houses in the front, if you can see the building, the white building in the back, this is our current cafeteria. And as you can see with the slope, the land there is shallow, is down. And the same way with the gymnasium is going to be backward. And that's when we addressed, and that's why we put the 3D pictures. We addressed the height of the building with the slope. It's not going to be as high as any of the other building in the surrounding area. So it's not going to look odd. It's going to look like a different building, because this was one of the concern raised as well. But the way the land is, the building is going to be set. It's going to be hard even to see from the street to see the whole building. But I'll just reserve my time so I can answer any of those if there's any other concern from the neighbors. Thank you.
Did anyone have questions before you leave?
I have one question. So there's a house in front of the existing cafeteria?
Yes.
And then the proposed building that you're proposing to build, is it going to be behind the existing house, or are you going to
No,
tear it down?
we're going to tear it down.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
I have a question as well. This goes back to the heights. What you have here is very similar to what you had last time, which are kind of clay box and models. I don't see any really elevations pointing out the adjoining structures and the highest point of this. I mean, I could scale it, but this isn't a final plan or anything, so it's tough to see. You said it's not going to be any higher, but it looks higher.
Last time we didn't have any 3D drawing at all. It was all flat. So this is something that we did to.
You had these last time.
I don't think did we have this last time?
I don't recall 3D renderings in the initial
No, this is
submittal.
something that we did after.
Maybe you just had of the building, maybe you didn't have.
We had a flat drawing, just like a 2D, but we did this to show the first building in the corner. This is the current school, and the gymnasium. It's going to be less than the current school on the front side. It's not going to be. It's going to be lower than the highest building there right now. And we did those drawing after our meeting was here on the 21st.
Okay. Misremembering, I feel like I've seen, I think maybe just the original structure. I don't think maybe it was.
Yeah, we just did like this plain architecture 2D, but we asked him to do this so it can show compared to the other building around.
It's still.
Any further questions?
No.
Okay, you'll have a chance to come back up.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Chair, if the parties present opposed to the case would like to come forward, again, as we talked about at the beginning of the meeting, you'll have 10 minutes in total to present your testimony. The clock will stop for any questions that the board might have of you. I won't start the clock on you on your introduction of yourself. So once you're into testimony, we'll start that. And again, I know there's three of you there. You guys hopefully work out your time. And If you'd like to, when you identify yourself to the board, your name and address, please.
Yes, Chris Krenner, 5063 Cherrywood Drive. I am the neighbor of the proposed Fellowship Hall and Gymnasium. I actually have satellite pictures with me as well. They didn't address, the photos that they showed didn't address the actual satellite imagery of the actual neighborhood, of the surrounding areas, of the schools. I know he stated that there were surrounding schools in this area. Our area was saturated with schools. That's just, not correct. My images that I have here, if you want to take a look at them, there is nowhere near any commercial structure within 15 feet of a residential house. That is in my surrounding neighborhood. I couldn't even find any in the neighborhood surrounding my neighborhood. This will be the first of its kind if you guys approve this. It's going to tower over our residents. I think it's going to have a lot of negative impacts on our house. And obviously I'm the one next to it, so I'm going to have to deal with this. But yeah, those 4 photos there, the first is my property along with the church and the neighboring property to the east of it. Second one is Tuscaloosa Elementary. If you guys look at that one, there is nowhere near any residential property in that area. That's a school in our neighborhood as well. We have McMurray Middle School, again, nowhere near a residential property. And then Tuscaloosa Cumberland Presbyterian, that's a church. If you look at that one, that final photo, they're not built anywhere near any residential property. So like I said, this will be the first of its kind in the area. The existing cafeteria that they have back there, I want to voice my opinion on that. I have no problem with their existing cafeteria. It's not anywhere near my property. It's 2 properties over. What I do have an issue with is if you guys do approve this, they have lights on that cafeteria. They're on all night long, spotlights in my backyard. I have a feeling that if you guys do approve this, they will put spotlights on this gymnasium all night long in my backyard. I don't know what the plans were for a buffer. Like I said, the church never reached out to me and it never came around. I'm the strongest opposition towards this, and nobody has ever, since the last hearing, come to me and talked to me about any plans for a buffer. I'm not sure what their actual plans are, but I have no knowledge of it. So, also another concern of mine is my fiance does work from home 2 days out of the week. If this is approved, how are we going to deal with any construction noises? How are we going to deal with the side of the construction when it's ongoing? I know it's probably going to take years for them to complete. They did do a rehab on their existing structure at church. It took them a couple years to do that. Like I said, that's completely on the east side of their campus. So, I mean, that's nowhere near our house. But this construction project that they propose is going to put a drain on us pretty much mentally. If we're going to be working from home and hearing this, it's going to be a nuisance. And if you guys do approve this during the construction area, if we could have some type of fenced in area just so we don't have to, it'll cut back on the noise from construction. I think that'll be a positive, but like I said, I want to circle back. This is literally going to be the first one of its kind in our area. If you guys approve this, to be this close to a residential house. So I'm strongly opposing, once again. I just want to voice my opinion. It's a strong opposition. And unfortunately, me and my fiance and our Jennifer is here today to support that. But unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to go around the neighborhood to get more people in opposition of this. So just want to voice my opinion if you guys have anything else to say.
Sure. Hi, my name is Tessam Beckman. I live at 5063 Cherrywood Drive, which is directly next to where this is being proposed. Actually, circle backing to the neighbors, we did talk to a couple, but like we know, it's Thursday in the middle of a work week. Not a lot of people could come and voice their opinions. They said they are in support of us, so against this proposal, but they weren't here to voice their opinions. And again, they weren't talked to about how this will affect our neighborhood or if we could come together for a solution or something like that. They were just they weren't aware of it at all, besides the letter that they got, that they didn't realize where it was going to be located, and they were pretty, again, upset that it was going to be like in their backyards as well, but not as close as ours. I would like to, I'm not sure why they chose this location, because if you do see, there's two residentials that are on their two residential houses that are on their property as well, that are in front of that cafeteria. Like, why cannot we do that instead, so it's all connected to your properties and whatnot? Why, like, skip two residential houses and then tear down that one and put the giant gymnasium right next to us? I'm just curious why, because I think that's, gonna look not great. And I also am concerned about those renderings. I was not able to see the height as well. Was not able to, like, I wish they had like a front view of the scale, just so we could kind of wrap our brains around it, because right now we have no fenced in yard, we have no privacy trees, and we can see the cafeteria clear as day when we enter our backyard, which again, we're okay with because it is jumping some properties, but we're very upset about one being right in our backyard. And again, to kind of touch on what Chris said too, if this does get approved, we would love some sort of like fenced in, covered construction type buffer when that happens, just because again, we have a small dog. I don't know, them getting hurt on some debris from during construction, and like a construction schedule. I know that would take a long time, but that would be great to see, like, are we gonna be dealing with this for years? Because that's just very disappointing, and I don't know, we're upset, clearly.
I appreciate y'all coming. A couple questions. If there was a buffer, basically a tree buffer that was, close to the height of the building or something, would that make this a sort of something or some sort of, condition that had maybe no windows facing to where you had a solid wall or something and no floodlights, just to, I kind of hear your light pollution, noise, that sort of concern,
So that's an option. Like I said, anyone from the organization, the church, has not reached out to me. Nobody has come to the door. Nobody has, tried to schedule another hearing. That's definitely an option, but nobody has said anything to me about this. So nobody has come to us and said, we're the strongest opposition in this appeal. So I have no idea why, he stated that they talked to 6 or 7 neighbors, they didn't talk to us, and we're the only ones who are strongly opposing this. But yes, a tree buffer, but who's gonna maintain it? If they're gonna maintain it, are they actually going to maintain it? Because there was a buffer that they put in for a parking lot that they had built across the street from their campus. That buffer died during a freeze, and it's still dead. So it's still not maintained. Who's gonna be the one who's enforcing the maintenance on this buffer?
If you can state your name and
Okay, sorry, wrong button. I live down the way on 523 South Crest Drive. It was just, the thing that disturbed me was just mainly the ask and the history of the church. I've been in the neighborhood for 20 years, so I've seen the expansion. So, I have pictures of the parking lot, and then the bushes alongside and the empty spaces that they were supposed to cover up for the neighbors facing it. I also have some signatures that I got from my neighbors earlier that I forgot to mention at our last meeting in opposition. A lot of these folks work, they don't have a lot of time. I have a flexible schedule. I can make up my time on the weekend, and that's why I am able to come here today.
Any further questions for the opposition?
This may be a question they can or can't answer, but looking at the current map, there's 2 residential homes that are in front of the cafeteria. Are those being used as residential homes to your knowledge, or are they being used as, other, I guess, more commercial use as part of the church?
From my knowledge, I mean, he would know better than me, but I'm assuming they're being rented out. So they're being used as residential property, so is the property next to my house.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do y'all have, okay. Do y'all have anything to add?
No, I think that's it from what I have.
Okay. Yeah, I have one more set of pictures. I mean, I know I'm flooding you, dude. But I took a series of pictures along the street just so you could see the whole entire makeup of it. Starting with this is like their school, and then this is how it sequences through the neighborhood. So you see how it just transitions, because it's kind of really hard to see from an aerial point of view how deep it goes in. So I figured I'd send you some pictures.
I wish my wingspan was a little bit wider. Thank you. No,
I'm gonna let these circulate and then we'll see if there's any further questions. Take another minute. But to summarize, I think your points were concerns with light pollution, noise during construction, but also noise when it is in use.
Yeah, I also want to add that my concern is also property valuations in the area. I think that's going to be a massive negative impact on that.
Also privacy, I just want to add real quick, because we do not have a fenced-in yard. I would still like to have the freedom to do what we want in our backyard, and I don't know. I don't feel that it's, sorry, if you get my point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll take another second here to look at the photos and then see if there's any additional questions. No? Okay, thank you.
Are there any other parties present? Okay, seeing none, sir, you'll have 8 minutes and 22 seconds for rebuttal.
Thank you. Try to take notes so I can. So again, I apologize personally for not reaching out to the neighbor, but it was a misunderstanding from my part. I thought we just needed to address those two issues before coming back here. But the issue that he raised today, the first one, I disagree with him. Actually, the church that he was talking about, it's right across the street from our church, and it has a bigger gymnasium than what we are building height-wise, and it has a house right next to it. Same thing with elementary schools. Both schools have houses next to it. Not on this street, but on McMurray Street. So all two schools and the churches have residential right next to it. And the church gymnasium, again, has a house right next to it, and it's higher than what we're proposing. So this is the first point. As for the other points, I agree with him about the construction part. And of course, there is part of the construction rule that we have to do a silt fence around the property during construction. And I understand silt fence won't help with the noise and the view. But since anyway that we are proposing buffer trees, so we don't have a problem in maybe planting those trees prior to the construction. So this way, during construction, he won't have, or they don't have to see the construction and the noise coming. At least those trees will help with the buffering zone. So we can do this prior, do this first before starting the construction, is put those buffer trees between us and the neighbor. As for the light, if it's not required by codes, I don't know if it's required that we have to have lights around the building. We don't have to have the light around the building, just whatever is required, we will do, but if it's not required, we are not gonna do it from our own. So if we can get away without having lights around the building, we can propose that we won't have light around the building. Most of the activity in this building want to be at night, so you won't need light around the building. As for the construction time, we don't have an exact time frame because we didn't talk to a team that will be building, but he mentioned the rehab that we've done in the church. The main church took us about 2 years to renovate, but of course, doing renovation is much slower than building new because we had to incorporate, rehab while using the building and using, the surrounding area and the parking lot for the church activity. But with this one, it's a brand new building and it's only on that parcel, so there's not going to be any delay in construction. As for the suggestion of doing the gym and the two residential area in front of the cafeteria, we have thought of that. The only problem is that this area is smaller. If the cafeteria was not there, we would be able to do that. And that's why we took the third house, because there is nothing behind it. As you can see in the pictures, there's a huge area of land behind it, so it will be sufficient for the gymnasium. But if we use the two houses, it's not going to be enough to put the gymnasium there because of the cafeteria. Sorry, I'm trying to find what the concern. As for the property value, I think we discussed this last time. I've been there since the church has been there since 1997. I was a member in the church since 1999, and the value of this area has been grown year after year. There is nothing that's when we started, we only had the L-shaped building right in front of the corner of McMurray and Cherrywood. All these other buildings that were add-on since 2001 until today, and none of these buildings affected the property value in this area. In the contrary, the value actually is increasing crazy in this area. As for the privacy concern, again, we will install silt fence around the property during construction. As for the construction noise, I think there is, by Davidson County, there is some regulation in when construction is performed. So we will only do construction within the hours that are allowed by the city. So we're not going to exceed those hours or the weekend or whatever rules that it's there for the construction time. This is what we're going to adhere to.
I don't know of a silt fence as being a privacy fence or a construction fence. So.
It's small, but I don't think it will. But we can do the buffer trees, but it's going to be between us and the other buildings, not going to be on the street.
Thanks for coming back on all those points. It goes back to my previous question. I guess my hang up last time was just not having the details on height. I pulled up the previous packet, and the same renderings that you've presented in this one are the same ones before. There's nothing here that denotes height. So other than just speculating, it's really impossible to tell how this gym would either tower and or be at the same level of the associated buildings. So was there anything else? Do you have any other additional information that shows height?
I texted the architect while we're sitting, and his answer is the gym height from the lower floor to the top is 30 feet, and the building will be about 22 feet from the street level.
Yeah, the street level elevation is different than the main floor elevation. Like you have to see, there's so many different.
Yes, it would be 30 feet from like the bottom floor, but when you look at from the street, it's about 22 feet. So there'll be like 8 feet under.
Right. I guess if you look at some other special exception applications, you'll see that they've got a variety of elevations that show the surrounding topography and light and wind and a whole bunch of other stuff that help give the board and neighbors
Okay.
a better idea of the impact, right? So lack of information, sometimes people can be generally cynical and go to the worst case scenario. So I think if there was more information, perhaps maybe your neighbors, I won't necessarily speak for them and say they're on board, but maybe their worst fears of it towering over their homes or what have you could be somewhat mitigated. So that's what I was hoping to see, a little bit more of a detailed plan here to understand. I mean, and then, you know, there are two homes with currently right now that sit next to this elementary school. So, you know,
The school in the corner here that says, the one that looks like an eye, it's about 24 feet high from the street level. It's on the street, actually, does not have a slope. This is like flush with the street. The gymnasium will be, from the street would be 22, so it'll be about 2 feet lower than that school, our school building on the corner.
and that may be the case, but the street itself could go up or down, right? So that's why you have to see all these different
Like,
elevations.
you mean
play
down
with
the
each other,
road?
Right, there's topography and a whole
okay.
bunch of other stuff that comes into it. I mean, you could generally see if this is
So
somewhat
there's only
accurate, which I'm
three
sure it
houses
is.
down, like from that building, the 24 high building, it's 3 houses down the gymnasium would be.
Right.
So I don't think there's a drop in the street, but I don't know the exact drop, or if there is any.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's where I'm struggling a little bit. I don't really have much more information on how it impacts because I'm hearing the neighbor's main concern is noise, height, a variety of other things that can be, I think, mitigated through construction means and methods and a variety of other things that aren't exceptionally expensive to do. So I was just hoping you'd have some more information that I could see versus than verbally saying it's X amount of feet. So thank you for texting your architect, but I don't have any other questions.
Any other questions? Okay, I had a couple. So is the landscape buffer solely trees, or is it other materials, hedges or shrubs?
We will have shrubs all around the building, but between us and the neighbors, we'll have the buffer trees, the long one. But around the whole gym would be just regular shrubs.
Okay. And is there an outdoor area for
No.
the gym? It's just the gym?
No, yeah, just the gym.
Okay. Might have another, just give
Sure.
me a second. Go ahead.
While you're thinking about that next question, and I didn't see it on the plans, but there are no windows or any openings on the right side, basically the wall of the gym that would be to the neighbor's side.
Yeah, the gymnasium doesn't have any windows now.
Do you know where any of the HVAC or mechanical equipment would be placed? Would that be on the roof, in the rear, on the sides?
To be honest, I don't know, but for the cafeteria, we have it in the back. And for the school building, we have it in the back as well. So I'm thinking that would be the same, to be in the back of the gymnasium, but
I think there's a
sure.
floodplain issue back there, or a creek.
No,
buffer
there is a
issue.
spring of water there, but we are way out from the spring, about maybe 30 plus foot. So we have enough space to put air conditioner, but it's not flood zone, no.
It's not flood?
No.
And then back on the fence, is there a plan to put more than a silt fence? I know the silt fence is required for stormwater, but will there be a plan during construction to put a
During
fence?
construction, no, but if it's required from us to do, we will do. But during construction, no, but after construction, there is a plan to just fence the whole property, because this is as far as expansion we can go. We don't have any other room to be, and that's what why we didn't fence the property to start with, because we're waiting for the phases of growing. But this is the last piece of thing that we can put. So we have a plan to fence it after construction, but during construction, no. But if there's something that needed, we will do.
And what type of fence will you fence the whole property with? When you're
Metal fencing. We already have part of it around the playground on McMurray side, so we'll continue with the same style. So it's a black metal fencing that is used now.
Okay, so it's a fence you see through, it's not a privacy fence?
It's not, but we can add, if they needed privacy fence in between us and the neighbors, if the buffer trees are not enough, we don't have a problem with doing that as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any additional questions? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing and discuss.
I just wanted to point out that this special exception is a little different than the other ones we see because RLUIPA, which is the Federal Religious Protection Law, and then the State Religious Protection Freedom Act also kicks in, so we have to look at that just from our training and from our books and the case law. Like, you have to look at that from a different lens, so I think that's why Joey reminded us of whether or not this falls under the general standard. And so I just wanted to level set that and remind everybody that this special exception is not like the other ones that we see. And I think, especially the neighbor who's appeared twice, who lives right next door, I think their frustration is completely understandable. And so I think if there's a way, if under special exception, if it meets the general standard, and the standard's a little different because of those laws, then we typically would do it. But because there is that competing interest of the harm to the neighbor, I think if there's ways that we can add conditions to protect the neighbor, that's probably our best path. But that's just that's my thought.
Totally agree. I mean, I'm where you are. The sort of two conditions that kind of came to mind for me dealt with a tree, some sort of tree buffer, a landscaping buffer, with a requirement of both consulting the adjoining landowner and the urban forester on that tree buffer, so that the neighbors aren't left out in the cold when it comes to kind of what sort of protection and privacy is going to be put in place. And the other thing is a restriction on any lighting that would be facing that portion. I know Mr. Ransom had some good questions about height. The height thing doesn't bother me quite as much because I don't believe there's an overlay on this neighborhood. And so I don't think anything would prevent somebody from building a house that's that tall. And so it's one of those, as they state, if it is 22 feet from the street, I mean, some of the new build homes are much taller than that. And so, yeah, exactly. So, you know, I think you've got it where I think that there's elements of the code that make it extremely difficult to deny these unless you have something overriding, but we can absolutely put conditions that I think will.
And then also, I think our vice chair was asking really good questions about a privacy fence. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that, because I wouldn't be opposed to like requiring both, because like I said, I do understand that this is right next to someone's house where they live and work and have kids. I mean, maybe they don't have kids, but they said they had a dog. And so they have an expectation of privacy. And so, which I think is reasonable. So I just think, like, I don't know if you wanted to talk about that, but you did ask some good questions, and I agree with those.
Yes, thanks. I was going to add that as a condition, just to have a privacy fence that is truly privacy. It's truly private, opaque. That goes down the property line.
Yeah, and I think that the concerns about construction noise are, of course, valid. You know, that's not really something we can deal with, but there is a whole brand newly structured code section dealing with construction noise, and you know, there are avenues to deal with that should it become an issue. So.
Well, you started with the conditions. Would you like to make a motion? You were on a roll.
Okay. Well, one question are there going to be lights required? Is that a fire safety thing that's going to be?
I'm not aware of any required from the building code unless there were emergency egress exits on that side of the building.
Yeah.
Of course, that's something the architect, we direct that egress elsewhere, you know,
Yeah.
to the east side internally or to the south.
Yeah, maybe directing
I'm not aware of any.
away from the.
I'll put it this way, if you put a condition on it, we will enforce it. So, I mean, it's.
Yeah, I think I'd also think about the mechanical units and other potential things that could create noise.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take a crack at this. I'm probably going to screw it up royally so everybody can come in with all the amendments that they would like to make to it. Based upon a finding that that the applicant has satisfied the requirements so the general requirements of section 150 and the religious institution requirements, I'd make a motion that we approve the special exception subject to the following conditions, that the applicant shall consult with the adjoining landowner and the urban forester on a tree and landscaping buffer on the side of the property abutting the residential structure on Cherrywood Drive, that the applicant shall design and shall cause any modifications necessary to the gym structure such that no lights or appliances will be between the gym structure and the nearest residential property, and that the applicant shall consult with the adjoining landowner on the installation and maintenance of a privacy fence on the side of the property adjoining Cherrywood Drive.
On clarification for my purposes, when you said appliances, what are you talking about?
HVAC and
Okay.
yeah,
That's what-
mechanical
Mechanical
and
equipment.
anything that's going to be making noise.
Any
Okay.
appliance that would create noise.
Okay.
And I thought that was great.
Okay, cool.
And I think the only other thing I would, and this is maybe more nuanced than we want to be, but the silt fence that goes between the neighboring structure would be more of what I would call a super silt fence. That's made up of chain link and silt fence. It's buried about a foot into the ground. They're very indestructible and they do not fall over. And if they're building that long, you could have some.
I will accept that amendment as an additional condition.
Okay.
Having litigated cases involving faulty silt fences before.
Yeah, so it's called a
Yeah.
super silt, which is a combination of chain link and silt.
Okay, there is the motion. Is there a second on the motion? I'll second the motion and then see if there's discussion. There might be discussion.
My only concern, and I could be wrong about the super silk fence, is that it's more than the code requires, and I don't know if that's unduly burdensome on the appellant. So that's my only concern. But I could be wrong. It's just, as we were talking, I thought about it. Not like that I don't think that they comply, I just mean under, like, the religious protections laws and whether or not we're putting a condition that is
Burdensome.
Yes.
I have no strong feelings about the silt fencing. So
For what it's worth, it's not anything that's, and it may not matter. It certainly doesn't matter a cost or anything. It's nothing that's exceptionally much more expensive. That came from just me hearing the direct neighbor and their worry about the time of construction, and then my experience in the construction world, and knowing that regular silt fences are blown over with a gust of wind, and there's going to be a lot of construction of a project of this size. I mean, that's a great point.
perhaps our incredible counsel, Ann, can enlighten us as to
Under both, like 1740, 270, you could impose conditions, and also under the sort of general provisions for special exceptions, or 150J, you can impose special conditions. So I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, thank
I
you.
don't see that imposing a condition like that is doing anything to inhibit or curtail any kind of religious practice, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
okay.
Mr.
So
Bradford, before there's vote, let me recap what I've written. Consultation will be required between the neighbor, the urban forester, and the church regarding installation of a landscape buffer and trees along that common property line, no lights along the property line, along that western portion, as well as no mechanical or HVAC equipment or fixtures that would create noise to be on that line. Was there in the silt fence?
yeah, the privacy fence.
Privacy fence.
And
I'm
then,
sorry, I did miss that.
an obligation to maintain both the landscape buffer referenced in condition 1 and to maintain the fence.
Okay.
Okay, I'll still second the motion. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye, raise your hand. And that's 4 in favor and none opposed.
Okay, case 20 has been approved with the conditions as noted. We'll enter appropriate order and get that out next week. All right. Members, we've got one case remaining. Are you guys ready to proceed? Okay, all right, we'll proceed. This will be our final case of the day, case 2024-43. Ms. Sherry Gentry is the appellant. Arnett Hayes, the owner of the property at 1414 Apache Lane, requesting a special exception in the RS-15 zone district. The appellant is seeking to open an in-home daycare. Referred to the board under section 1716-170D. The appellant has alleged jurisdiction under section 1740. 180 item C. I am presuming with the number of people sitting in this audience that there is opposition present to case 43. Okay. Let me reset our clock. Is the applicant present with us today? Yes. All right, miss. If you'll give me if you'll give me just a few moments, I'll get the presentation up. I'll go through my portion. I'll try and how in the world my clock is not working. Here we go. Let me go through our presentation first, and then I'll turn it over to you. All right. Again, this is case 43, or 1414 Apache Lane. This is the subject property on an aerial photograph. This is located up in Madison/Neely's Bend area, northeastern part of Davidson County. You see the subject property listed in red. This comes before you, members. The council, at the end of their last term, altered and amended the zoning code regarding home daycares in an effort to allow more of them. Previously, and Ms. Carpeneck will remember, because I think you're our longest member present, all of daycare homes used to come to the zoning board, regardless of size. The council took away and allowed by right any daycare with 7 children or fewer to be allowed in a residential zone district with certain conditions that the codes department enforces administratively, and then any daycare above 7 children have to come before the board. This request is, and they recaptioned the daycare language to daycare home large versus small to distinguish the two. But this will fall under the large category, requiring this board's approval. Again, you see the aerial photograph of the subject property. This is a view of my visit to the site. The residence in question will be this residence located on the left-hand side. You see the adjoining properties on left and right. And I apologize, I don't have any photographs from the rear. Wasn't able to, the day of my visit, there was no one present, so did not get access to that area. But that is the case records. We do have council members present. And do you wish to speak at the beginning, end, middle, whenever? At the end, okay. So at the end. Unless we go past 3:30 and then I have to pick up my son. All right, fair enough. Fair enough, Councilmember Hancock. And then we do have a recommendation from the Planning Commission for approval, and that's in your packet. But that is the case record that we have it. I will leave this photograph here up, and I don't know what I've done with my clock over here, but I'll get that fixed. And Miss, if you would, please identify yourself. Make your presentation to the board, and again, all parties involved, you'll have 10 minutes. Applicant, you may want to keep some of that 10 to rebut the neighbor's testimony. Okay. Neighbors, you all will have 10 minutes in total to divide amongst yourselves, so hopefully y'all have worked that out. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Memphis.
Okay. I'm Sherry Gentry, and I am requesting a special exception to open an in-home daycare. I've lived at my property since 2000. I actually been before the board before to do this, and was able to do it back in 2003, and I had one there in my home until 2007. So I'm just requesting a special exception to do it again. And that's it. I did. Mm-hmm. I had 3 people attend. Yes. And I submitted the sign-in sheet and everything to the state like I was supposed to. Thank you.
Oh, we'll have some questions.
Okay.
I do believe there are some requirements you must meet, and I didn't see in the packet
Yes.
anything addressing those requirements, and I don't have the requirements in front of me.
Well, I will be licensed and regulated by the state of Tennessee. Without license, I could have 7 kids, but just in case my enrollment goes past the 7, I want to be doing stuff the right way, get it approved, get my license. So it will be regulated, and there are rules that I will have to, follow by through the state of Tennessee. As far as I had to send out letters to, notify my neighbors of everything. And I did speak to the neighbors on both sides just to make sure, they were fine with it, and they were. But that's it.
Okay, there's other metro zoning requirements, such
Yes.
as maybe a play area that's fenced in.
Yes.
And again, I don't have
It's
this in front of
fenced
me.
in. We have a 6-foot privacy fence in the backyard.
Okay. Would we be able to hear what those conditions?
Yeah, I'm going to bring those up here.
Give us a second.
Okay.
I'm going to have to do a little cut and paste sheet and get that in here. For some reason, I cannot share my screen out. But bear with me one second. I'll get that.
I
for you.
submitted a site plan and everything to codes already. I thought maybe they would have that here.
I see a sketch, but it didn't outline the fence, from what I can tell. So that's why I was asking about the fence. Do you occupy the property?
Yes.
Okay, full-time?
Yes.
Okay, remember, I should have that here. Okay. And I'll read these out, maybe a little bit hard to read. But the daycare home requirements for the large type require, if there is a play area provided, it shall be fenced and attached to the daycare structure in a manner that minimizes noise impacts on adjoining residences. Second lot area where there's a minimum lot size required, the minimum lot area shall be the same as the principal activity. She does meet that requirement. We would not have scheduled her should she not. And then third and fourth is not applicable dealing with multifamily structures. But the third regulation is that all requirements of the state of Tennessee to use and operation of the facility shall be met.
Okay, thank you. That's a lot less than I remember from.
Yes, ma'am. Now, I do want to address something that we're going to tackle later this year as a board with our rules of procedure. There are conditions currently in the board's rules that deal with dogs and hours of operation, those types of things. I'll discuss with Metro Legal on that. I do not believe that this board has the authority to legislate through its rules. If the Metro Council wishes to add those requirements to daycares, they can do so. That having been said, this is a special exception. You do have the right to put reasonable conditions on those, and those reasonable conditions could affect, no dogs allowed or no hours of operations, but as a de facto, every one of these has to do this. I don't believe you have the authority to do so, and I don't recommend. In years past, we have placed those conditions as a matter of course that this board didn't need to address. So if there are any additional conditions you'd like to place on this, you need to do so as a part of a motion. I don't believe you can just do that. Oh, well, our board rules say that you have to, do X. With the changes in the council, to give you some background, I've been here 25 years. Those rules were in the board's rules when I got here in 96, so 97. So they've been there a long time. We're going to address those later this year as a board, so not to take away from.
For the record, I don't have any pets or anything, so we don't have to worry about that.
I'm going to see if there are any additional questions before you step away. We might have some more later when you come back.
Thank you.
Okay, if the parties opposed want to come forward, I've got 4 spots up here. Feel free to take up as many seats as you need, and those parties want to come forward, and I am resetting the clock. Again, the time limit does not apply to Councilmember Hancock. So she's, you could up until you got to pick up your son. Ladies at the table, whoever's coming, there's a little button just to the right of the microphone. When it's your turn, feel free to hit that button and identify yourself and your address and make your presentation to the board.
Okay. Ready? I'm Stacy England. I am president of the board of Kim Bolton, the neighborhood that she's talking about. We tried to get a hold of our lawyer to find out in the covenants if there was something opposing this. And I just received this morning. Would you like me to read it, or would you like to?
Yes, go ahead and read it.
Okay. After reviewing Kim Bolton's CCR&Rs, it is my opinion a daycare cannot be run out of the house. I also ensured that the resolution attached was recorded. Under Article 2, Section 22, use of premises, it states, each lot shown on the recorded plan shall be used only for private, single-family residential purposes and not otherwise. In addition, the recorded administrative resolution number 2, covenants and restrictions under Section 22 states, each lot shall be used only for private, single-family residential purposes. Use for any other purposes shall be enforced by legal action with all costs to the owner of records. Therefore, the daycare business would violate the CC&Rs.
Members, let me stop just right here real quick. Let's talk about restrictive covenants. And Ann, feel free to jump in if I get it wrong. But restrictive covenants are private land contracts between private landowners and are not binding on the Board of Zoning Appeals or the Metropolitan Government, as we are not a party to those private contracts. That having been said, if this board grants this case, the landowner is subject to a private legal action that would have to come from you all to sue to enforce your covenants, but those covenants are not binding upon the Metropolitan Government.
So what then is the use of them?
Again, they're private land contracts between owners. As a person who moves in your neighborhood, I'm agreeing to abide by your rules and regulations, your HOA rules. But the people who have to enforce those rules are you, and you have to do so by lawsuit, as you just read out. I mean, it's private action. The Metropolitan Government's not going to go enforce your private deed restrictions. So.
Gotcha.
But just to understand, I just want to put that on the record. That's not something that it's great that you testified to that, but that's not something this board can enforce. I just want you to understand.
I thought there was something in the original papers about this that the HOA matter. If they had a restriction, then it would.
It's not in the conditions that are, the regulations that are up there, as far as I can see.
No, I'm talking about the,
There are some restrictions where there is some overlap with short-term rentals. You've seen the Airbnbs. There are things that do fall because the Metro Council has chosen to, hey, you can't have an Airbnb if your HOA restricts it. So that would be a time where a private land contract, this restrictive covenant, is binding on the government. But the reason it's binding is because Councilmember Hancock and her, parties have adopted that as ordinance. But sometimes we do get neighbors that contact the codes department wishing the government to enforce private deed restrictions or restrictive covenants. I just want you to understand, you may not know, but those are not enforceable by this board. But it's certainly fine to bring that into testimony. At least makes them aware. And it makes the owner potentially aware that she may get sued if she does this. So.
Right. And the side time can be added back to their clock, right? Because there's a number of...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've stopped the clock, Councilmember. So no, I wouldn't in any way charge them for this free legal advice, which is what you paid for, 0. That's worth. But anyway, I'll turn it back over to you guys, testimony-wise.
Ma'am, do you know the date that those CCRs were recorded?
Let me look here. It has been updated, and I'm sorry. In 2007. Oh, she said the updated ones were 2007. Do you have those?
This is the abbreviation of it.
Is number 22 on it?
Yes.
They are generally good for periods of 30 years under Tennessee law without some renewal. So I would say they're still valid, but they need to consult private legal counsel to determine.
The original bylaws were done in 1988, but there has been an update on these in 2007?
And is that was 2007 when this restriction was put in on commercial uses?
No, it just it makes it more clear. And let me see here.
Mr. Hargis probably knows what I'm getting at here, that we had a grandfathering concern here.
Oh, no, I would tell you to disregard,
Yeah.
and Ann probably will too, that this is not binding on us.
Right,
So
right.
that's between those parties to
Right.
work out.
Okay, it does just say on here additionally that for any other use shall be enforced by legal action with the costs assessed to the owners of record. So what you're saying, that, yeah. We do have other reasons that this will affect the neighborhood. We have pictures, on the phone, I don't know if that helps. Okay.
Do you all have the letters that we sent, and so the photographs are there also?
Okay, anything you would have sent to this board at least 7 days prior, they have.
And then today, just incidentally, we just pulled the Google Earth photo, which has not been submitted to you, and she's even in violation of the HOA and Metro codes there. She's a car parked on the grass. Like, what are the odds that, Google comes by the one time that you're in violation? It's constant. But I have more to say, but I'll let you finish.
Okay.
I just want to make sure you had that information. Can that be put up here?
When you speak again, we'll need to know why don't you tell us actually your name? And
My name's April Parker. So you have a letter from me that has those photos?
Yeah, and typically we do the asking of the questions. So why don't you present to us and then we'll ask you some questions.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Thank you. Are you?
The major reason I've been hearing from neighbors and probably letters you've received is that the street in front of that house is very small. And people are parking on both sides, and it causes, somebody has to hang back. And with these additional kids coming in and out, especially during work time, it's going to get very confusing and difficult to navigate.
Are you saying that people are parking on the road or is it just a narrow road in general?
I'm sorry?
Is it a narrow road in general, or
yes.
are people parking on the road?
They're parking, but it's very narrow, yeah.
Okay, and is it the neighbors that are parking on the road, or?
I'm sorry, my hearing's bad.
No, that's okay. Do you see the cars that are parking on the road? Do you think they're neighbors, or are they visitors?
Oh, no, it's the people that live in the homes.
Okay, so it's other neighbors using the road.
Oh,
as
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks
Sorry.
for clarifying, yeah. And you all still have 8 minutes, so
Does anybody want to jump in? You want to go ahead?
Hi. My name is April Parker, and I live in the Kimballton community within 1,000 feet of Miss Gentry Hayes' residence. I attended her community meeting, and I initially wrote in support of her request. And then I was made aware of issues directly contradicting how Mrs. Gentry Hayes represented her request, and I rescinded that letter and submitted an opposition letter. I now strongly oppose granting Mrs. Gentry Hayes a special exception for a group home child care facility in our subdivision. Evidence casts significant doubt on whether she uses this property as her primary residence, which is a fundamental requirement, as I understand it, of the exception. I provided screenshots of rental listings showing that utilities are included by the homeowner, so utility bills alone will not establish completely the status as her primary residence. Multiple neighbors attest to Mrs. Gentry Hayes' long-term absence, with numerous renters occupying the property. In addition, there are rumors of numerous HOA violations and a documented history of code violations, including a condemned notice being placed on her door by Metro and a story on Fox 17 TV News about the garbage lining her yard from her front door to the street. Even the Google Earth photo of her home shows her in violation of both our HOA covenants and Metro codes with a car parked on the grass. Apache Lane is a main artery into and out of 2 large subdivisions and a 3rd large community adjacent. Neighbors relate that her previous daycare had egregious disregard for her customers causing traffic and road blockage, unsupervised children climbing fences into their backyards, and her general disregard for their concerns when they raise them. Mrs. Gentry Hayes' own comments to me suggest that she is at this time indifferent to how her neighbors are impacted and look like an unwillingness to work with our community. Nothing in her demeanor suggests that she will or wants to do better. And all of this raises her alarms about her commitment to the well-being of Kim Bolton. Please do not allow this exception for someone who, I now believe at least, has for years only been involved with our community in her capacity as a bad landlord. It would not be fair to those of us who live there full-time. This is my primary home. Well, I'll throw my phone across the room. I'm nervous. And I urge you to uphold the standards of the special exception and deny her request. Thank you. Thank you.
And I do remember your letter in our packet. We had many.
Okay. My name is Earlene Bazemore, and I'm on the Kimbolton Homeowners Association Board. I've lived in Kimbolton for 21 years, and I assure you that Ms. Hayes or Gentry does not live there full-time. I walk this street every single day, of course, unless weather does not permit. And there have been numerous renters there in the past few years, which I've seen their vehicles, and I've had the opportunity to speak to them in passing. So I know she does not live there. That is not her full-time resident. She is a homeowner or a property owner, but she is not the full-time resident of that home. And of course, in my letter that I've sent to you, I gave you the violations that codes enforce, et cetera. And in addition, the property owner had, as she stated before herself, the previous daycare. But which I feel like the covenant, she's in violation of it. And of course, as I said, I pass by there daily. In fact, I have pictures of her property in my phone. And I know that she doesn't live there, as I said, as a full-time resident. She is the property owner, but not the full-time resident. So I really do hope that you will deny this request for an exception because she does not live there full-time. She does not, or has not, in my opinion, really been considerate of the neighbors around her. And as Ms. Stacy has stated, that the street is very narrow. And for example, the home that she is the property owner of it's a single driveway. So you do have families that have multiple people that work, and because of the driveways, they're not all able to put their vehicles in the driveway. They may have to park on the street. So again, that will create a lot of more confusion and congestion for the neighbors that live there that have been there for years, such as myself. So I do implore you not to give her an exception to, or grant her this exception for daycare. It's in the best interest of the community which we live and which she doesn't. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vanita Lytle Sherrill, and I too have lived in Kimbolton for many years, since about 1985, 6, whatever. But the point is that I am in opposition of her request, and I am for the reasons that have already been stated.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
That's all right. That's all right.
Hi, my name is Barbara Steffens. I live at 1528 Joe Pyron Drive, about 1,000 feet from the property that's asking for the exception. Apache Lane is a very, very narrow street, and children are in that street. And when you come through there, it is very dangerous when children are in the street. I don't know how that's going to be controlled, how parking is going to be controlled for people to pick up their children. It just,
I hate to see anyone lose their ability to make money or to make a living, but that home is not the place for a home daycare. It just doesn't have the parking. I don't know how it's going to pass codes, or even the state of Tennessee's Department of Human Services. So I do oppose, I do oppose the daycare exception.
Is there anyone who would also like to speak in opposition? Okay, I do have a question regarding, it came up a couple of times, the primary residence.
Yeah, members, I gave you the conditions for the permitted with conditions daycare homes and not the special exception version. So let me paste the correct rules up here. And
One of the pictures you saw had a sign in it.
there we go.
I guess it's a rental sign, not a for sale sign, but I saw it as you were going through there, so.
So 1716-170D1 refers to how daycare homes shall only be permitted in an occupied residence or accessory to another institutional use. That's the wording.
Yeah, I think the question is, does occupied residence mean occupied by the owner of the residence or by just a human?
We have always required that the daycare license holder is the resident that's there. So the person operating the daycare home needs to be the person that resides on the premises. Likewise, too, we would not allow under D1 to let somebody rent a house in a residential district just for daycare. And not live there. So the operator needs to be present. Now, although not explicit in that would fall under where I come in to interpret the code. That'll be our interpretation, that the person, the license holder with DHS better be the person that's living there. And again, I apologize. I gave y'all the permitted with condition daycare homes that are not in residential zone districts. So again, we talked about lot size, just since I read them out before, let me cover them here. Lot size that, again, it has to be the same size that would allow that. She does meet that standard. The daycare home must have a driveway on any street. There can't be more than one daycare home on the minor local street within 1,000 feet. Our records don't indicate any other daycare homes within 1,000 feet. On the same, on that same street that's listed there. Spacing, regardless of classification, daycare centers or homes shall locate, no daycare homes or daycare centers shall locate on the same block face or an opposing block face, so there's not any within that block of her street nor directly across the street. As it lists there, if a block face is over 1,000 feet in length, that's not really applicable here. Again, fenced playground's always going to be required if provided. It has to be fenced and attached to the residence, has to minimize noise on adjoining neighbors. All other requirements of the state shall be met. And 7, the BZA may waive standards for multifamily housing developments. That's not applicable here. And again, as we talked about before, you guys can place reasonable conditions in addition to these 7 items.
Okay, are there any questions? Any further comments?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think the council member was wanting to address you as well. Absolutely, you can. Only thing I'd ask the council member, and no, we don't really cover it. If there's anything, and I'll say this to the board, if anything you bring up, I think the applicant should have a part to rebut council member's testimony, should they wish to. But this time out, ladies, if there's no other testimony you'd like to make before the board, are there any other parties present who wish to address the board on this matter? Okay, if not, we'll turn it back over to the applicant in this case. And as they depart, if the appellant will come forward, I'll get the clock reset back where we were. And you are around 9 minutes and 20 seconds or so I'm gonna let this run, but if you would please address the board and any matters that were raised
Okay.
by the neighbors.
The matter that I heard that I'm not a resident in my own home is not true. I have copy of my utilities, my driver's license with my address on it where I live. I do have 5 kids, 4 which play basketball in college. As we're having this meeting today, tomorrow I will be leaving for a week and a half because my 2 daughters play for the University of Marshall and they are playing in the NCAA tournament. So I have 4 children that play basketball in college and I follow them, 3 different colleges. So if it seems that I'm not there a lot during the basketball season, then I'm not. But that is my primary residence. The other thing with the parking, like I said, I've done this in the past. It was approved with a special exception. And what I did with drop off, I had scheduled drop off, why there was never any issues with traffic or anything. So at that time, I did have 10 children enrolled, and each family had scheduled drop-offs to limit, the traffic issue. I think that's it.
Would you be comfortable doing scheduled drop-offs again?
That's what I want to do.
Okay.
Yeah, it just keeps it, for me, it keeps it, as far as the traffic, there's not any traffic, and then organized for me, just to have the scheduled drop-off and versus having 5 families come at once.
I wish regular size daycares did the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you do scheduled drop-offs, is it possible to keep the drop-offs contained to your driveway?
That's one of my rules. They have to be dropped off in my driveway. They cannot be dropped off on the road. For me, that's just not safe. So they have to drop their kids off in the driveway. And the drop-off time is between 7 and 9 in the mornings. And each family has a specific time that they need to drop their children off. And the same goes for when they pick them up in the evening.
And what is the maximum number of children you'll have?
12. Okay. Probably officially 10 on the road, but I mean, my license would allow me to have 12.
This maybe is more nuanced, and I'm not familiar with the requirements of license or daycare center, but does it require a certain amount of percentage of time that you be in attendance and be at that daycare, or? Because it sounds like you travel a lot and you're not there.
Well, games are usually in the evening, but I would be there every day. But by the state law, I don't necessarily have to be there, or the state rules, I don't necessarily have to be there 8 hours a day or 12 hours a day. But just for the record, I'm going to be there, 4 out of the 5 days a week. But if I'm not traveling on the weekend to watch my children play during basketball season, that's only a short period of time, then I'll be there all 5 days.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay. I see a light on. It's okay. And do you have any additional comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay, that's it. And we will hear the council member now.
Okay.
Thank you. And I would like to start by saying, although I'm a loyal Tennessee Vol, I do wish good luck to the Thundering Herd. We are Marshall. You got to watch that movie if you haven't seen it. So I first heard from Ms. Gentry about this application the last week of February, which, if you'll recall, was the longest February we've had in 4 years. And she wanted to schedule a community meeting and wanted to schedule that in coordination with me, but wanted it to be, like in the next week. And I had just, I think 2 days before I spoke with her, maybe 1 day before, had my 2 community meetings that I have every single month, because I have lots of meetings and didn't want to have one again in the very next week. And so we scheduled one on, coincidentally, my birthday, but I was at a state legislative conference, so I was not able to go, but I did advertise it in my newsletter, which I think part of the reason that she was able to get a few attendees at that meeting. I have heard a lot of concern from the Kim Bolton neighborhood, which is a very active neighborhood, and obviously with an HOA is a little bit organized. Now, I live in a neighborhood that is not organized. We don't have an HOA, and we're kind of out in the country, but we all know everybody, and we all know everybody that lives there, and we all know if anybody is ever there that doesn't belong. So it's a challenge for me, because I want to believe everyone, to hear from some people that say this person absolutely does not live here, and then to have Ms. Gentry say I absolutely do. I'm just gone a lot. So what I would encourage, even though I hate the fact that so many people have come out, and I would not want to require people to come out again. I don't usually like deferring things. I would encourage us to maybe defer this for a month so that we could, or maybe past basketball season, so that we could get a meeting of the neighborhood HOA, perhaps even though the legal requirements aren't on you guys, just so that the community can talk with Ms. Gentry about, the fact that she is one of their neighbors and who lives there, period, to maybe get some more understanding on that, because I would hate that gray area to be the one that we approve on that, but I don't know if that's a reason for deferring. I just would want to make it super clear that this is a home residential daycare and not a home that's owned to be a daycare. Besides that, I think that everyone has said their piece, and that's my only concern there. Thank you.
We'll close the public hearing and we'll have a discussion. We should probably start with the council members' recommendation. Does anyone have feelings on that?
I don't have particularly strong opinions, but one way or the other. I mean, I don't know that, the first position that the homeowners association took was that, and I know that we don't consider it, was that this was illegal. So I don't know if a deferral to have a meeting is going to do anything, because if their position is going to continue to be that this is illegal, then it sounds like this thing's headed for a tribunal other than ours. So I don't know. Part of me wonders if it would do any good. Now, from a a good relations standpoint, maybe it wouldn't hurt. But I mean, I think that when we see the sort of tensions between people who are trying to do something that is permitted by special exception, and that the code recognizes as something that can occur in a residential community, and a neighborhood that has problems about it, the hope is maybe that they can work out some sort of understanding. But in the event that doesn't happen, I mean, I haven't heard any testimony today that tells me that there's some issue with human health or safety that would prevent us from granting this exception. So I'm ready. I'm prepared to move forward, but again, I don't have a strong feeling about it.
I agree with Mr. Bradford completely, because it is a special exception. So, but I mean, I do appreciate all the neighbors coming out. I don't think it's easy to come out here and expressing their frustration understandably. And even if we did pass it, I don't think that means that the applicant should ignore their concerns, because it doesn't sound like this is going away. So, so that was just my 2 cents.
I think that 100% that the battle just moves to a different place other than this board.
And this board isn't necessarily the place for the battle.
Right, 100%.
Those are all good statements. I was on the fence, so thank you. And regarding whether or not it's an occupied residence, I have to believe that the codes department would require the adequate evidence, and that they would vet through that. I don't think that's for us to vet through during this meeting.
Yeah, I mean, even still, we have a statement from the applicant that of a driver's license and bill showing that this is her residence. And so, you know, if that's false, I don't think we're the body to adjudicate whether that's false or not, so.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
So any additional discussion or motions? Okay.
I'm a little on the fence as well, but I think what's put me on the fence are more kind of emotional things. When you look at what special exception is on paper, it's hard for us to have an opinion outside of that, so.
Well, it's always difficult when there's a lot of neighborhood opposition, and, but for a special exception, if the applicant meets the criteria where we should grant it, we can place conditions on it if we heard anything that, I think maybe the scheduled drop-off might be a favorable condition.
I don't know if this is possible, but our chairman mentioned this last time, and so I'm just going to ask Joey and our legal counsel if this is a permissible condition. Mr. Pepper asked last time about, like, if we granted a special exception, but then, like, within, like, a certain period of time, let's say a year, if the neighborhood had evidence that maybe, like, she wasn't meeting the conditions and that she wasn't operating this the way that she told us that she would, then it could come back before us and then we could review it again. I don't know if that's
Absolutely. You can do that under your rules by means of a show cause hearing. And we've had those in not for daycares necessarily, but we've had special exceptions, let's say for historic home events. Under your rules, you can have a show cause hearing that they're in violation of the permit which you've granted them.
So is it permissible to make that a condition? Like,
I don't know that it necessarily needs to be a condition. It's the fact, folks can do that now for special exceptions if it's shown to the, usually.
What would the procedure be on, like?
The process for that for us is we take the allegation at the codes department first, verify that the allegation is accurate. And if it is, I will schedule it for a hearing, notify the applicant that a show cause hearing will be held, and we would send out, our office would send out signs and letters and schedule them for a hearing on this board in the same process we normally do. And then,
so I guess it wouldn't be a condition, but I was saying that for the benefit of the opposition to know that this isn't like these wonderful people have described, we have a process and we have to follow the law, but that doesn't mean that your concerns are not important. So if you feel like the conditions aren't being met, then that means you can come back. So I think that was important to note for them, so.
And the way that would work is someone would contact the codes department from the neighborhood, and then they would provide some proof.
yes, ma'am. I would give that to our zoning inspection team to validate. Now, I'm not sending every complaint back to this board. We're gonna investigate it, make sure, yes, they're telling us correct, you know, that there's a violation here, then I'll notify the applicant and schedule. But there's a process that we would do through our zoning inspections division, so.
Well, may I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am, sure.
When you're talking about violation, are you talking about the cars going through?
Any condition of the board's order, if the board is, and certainly not to take away from the board's time, if the board grants any appeal case that comes by special exception, and they placed a condition out, like you saw the church previously, and that church is in violation, we can bring them back to this board for violation of the board's orders.
So I think we should probably, I know that we have a condition about
driveway.
And that it has to be contained to the driveway and that it won't put any cars on the street. I don't know if there's any other conditions that the board heard.
I would say it's tough to tell about the fence. It's a requirement. I can't really tell in the drawing.
Yeah, I don't,
So just make sure.
I think because that's a requirement, like, I think the fencing.
We couldn't even approve it if the fence wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like when they went out there, they checked that.
Okay. They didn't.
Because he said that's why he couldn't go to the back, because of the fence.
Yeah.
We have put conditions conditions in the past and other special exceptions that the special exception lasts for a certain period of time? Is that, am I remembering that correctly, that could be?
You have done those in the past, yep. I haven't seen it so much for daycares, but I've seen it for home events and contentious cases. There's a history of that.
Yeah, and this is kind of a special exception that doesn't, it's like has minimal structural modifications or structural components. So it's not like you're building something that's for a religious purpose that's a gym, for example. But I guess it's a use of a home, so. I think the ability to do the show cause would sort of satisfy the need of if there's a problem, there's the ability to address it.
I agree, but I'm listening. So are there any other conditions besides containing drop-off and pickup to her driveway?
Did we have hours of I guess, and I say this as someone who has, makes a best effort to do drop-offs every morning at a certain time and sometimes comes up a little bit short when I find myself having to wrangle the small alligator that lives in our house. I think it's reasonable though to have some sort of drop-off window.
She stated it was 7 to 9 a.m. We didn't catch what the
I guess, but it's
afternoon
like
drop-off was.
But was there a thing that it would be staggered within that window?
I was under the impression that that's what she meant, but I didn't. We didn't talk about pickup though, I will say that. I don't remember that.
Can we reopen the public hearing for 2 seconds?
Yes, can you come to the microphone? We need to record what you're saying.
Again, like I've done this in the past in my home before, and just for my organization and schedule, I've had each family have their drop-off time and pickup time between the hours of 7 and 9, and then in the evenings between 4:30 and 6. So each family would have their own scheduled times to pick their children up. And it was a requirement, my rules, they have to be dropped off in the driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess the condition of the driveway drop-off and of that drop-off time shall be between 7 and 9 with each family having a designated window, and the pickup time shall be between 4:30 and 6 with each family having a designated window. Does that sound? Man, I'm really thinking on my feet today.
You're doing great.
Coffee.
So are there any other thoughts or on conditions or anything else?
This is not a condition, but another concern they had was, I think I saw photos of trash on the property, and that is something that we wouldn't handle here. That would go to, I can't remember, the HUD.
Property
standards, thank you. So that's not something we could.
Do you want to add as a condition, just as to have all the bells and whistles that the applicant actively monitors and keeps up with the property standards and make sure that the property meets that? Because I think that's a reasonable condition, especially since there was some testimony from the opposition. But it looks like
isn't there a provision in the general on special exceptions that they comply with all the every other provision of ordinances?
I think you're right.
Maybe I'm delusional, but I felt like there was some.
So under 150B ordinance compliance, proposed use shall comply with all applicable regulations.
Okay, so then it's already in there.
Yeah.
Because that's the same thing that comes up when people are worried about noise. Like, you still have to comply with the noise ordinance even if it's a special exception.
Yeah. I'm willing to take a stab at the motion, but I want to make sure everybody had their input before. Okay, then I'll make a motion that because the conditions were met of the special exception, that we approve this special exception to allow the in-home daycare, subject to the condition that all pickup and drop-off of the children will happen only in the driveway. It will not impart nothing will happen on the street, and that it will happen during the designated timelines that the applicant gave in her testimony. And then that's the motion. And then as a reminder to the neighbors that in the event that our conditions aren't being met, or any conditions that are in the ordinance that you have to comply with anyway as a homeowner, that they can talk to the codes department, and then they'll open an investigation, and then we would relook at this as a show cause hearing.
Seconded.
Okay, there's a motion, a second, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye, raise your hand, aye. So that's 4 in favor of granting the special exception with the condition and none opposed.
Okay, members, with that, this meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.